World-class opposition won't be the only thing standing between New Zealand's top athletes and success at next year's Tokyo Olympics. Next year's Games in Japan are expected to be the hottest in Olympic history. It's a prediction that's had Kiwi officials working for 3 years on a strategy to ensure the performance of their athletes isn't overly impacted by the sweltering conditions. And as Clay Wilson and camera operator Dan Cook found out, it's a strategy they believe can provide New Zealand's best with a competitive advantage.
More a chamber of success than a chamber of secrets. Nestled away inside the Millennium Institute on Auckland's North Shore is a small room preparing Kiwi athletes for the energy-sapping heat expected at next year's Tokyo Olympics. And for sailor Molly Meach, a silver medalist alongside Alex Maloney at the 2016 Games in Rio, High Performance Sport New Zealand's heat chamber could be the difference between delight and disappointment.
I think being aware of the heat, like everyone's talking about it, but I think actually doing this and then experiencing Japan itself, I think it's going to be a pretty key factor, being able to control how you react in the heat. So I think it can be a definite game changer.
While temperatures of nearly 40 degrees are predicted for the 2020 Games, the addition of high humidity could mean it almost feels like 50. Conditions not only of risk to performance, but equally athlete health. The head of High Performance Sport New Zealand's heat strategy for Tokyo, Julia Casadillo, says the heat chamber causes physiological changes in the athletes, making them better equipped to handle the conditions.
The sailors, when they are competing, they're out in the water for up to 3-4 hours. So to simulate that is pretty challenging. But if we get them in there 60 minutes to 90 minutes, 5 days a week for a couple of weeks, and that's usually enough to give them the adaptations they need.
The chamber is set at 32 degrees, but is designed to feel like 37 when the humidity is cranked up to 80%. Once the door shuts behind you, it doesn't take long for the sweat to start pouring.
So being in here, immediately you can not only feel the heat, but the humidity. I can already feel the moisture being sort of sucked out of me, and I'm only just warming up, and this bike is on a fairly low setting. So you can imagine being in here for 30 minutes or more. It's a pretty difficult task.
Even if you're not on a spin bike, it's a pretty tough place to be.
You might already be able to see, if you're watching, through the lens, just how warm it is in here. And what you can't see, is cameraman Dan is dripping from head to toe. Says enough about what it's like in here.
The chamber's effectiveness has already been put to the test. Our top sailors, along with other New Zealand teams and athletes, have this year taken part in Olympic test events in Japan. Rio Games bronze medalist Sam Meach says the room, built 8 years ago as a research tool, has already proved its worth.
We've had some days which feels exactly like this. You're doing everything you can to cool down, and that's exactly the day we're preparing for.
The chamber is a key part of a wider heat strategy put together by High Performance Sport, the New Zealand Olympic Committee and Paralympics New Zealand. Strategy lead Julia Casadillo is confident the project, and the small nature of the team compared to other nations implementing it, will be an advantage when it comes time to decide medals in Tokyo. A confidence echoed by medal contender Molly Meach.
We see some of the other sailing teams are struggling, and people are talking about the heat, and I think our approach is just to kind of deal with it, know what works for you and what doesn't, and then be in the best kind of prepared state that you can be for the heat itself.
Just how effective the approach has been will be known in around 10 months' time. Mō te hotaka o te ahi pōnei, ko Clay Wilson aho.